What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I have an amazing video for you. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered, who is actually winning? Right? Because we clearly know the media is very biased in the way that they report. I think anybody watching this video can admit and even put money on it that they agree the media, the truth isn't the beacon for them. They have many other things that come before the truth comes. So that is what we're doing here, is trying to understand who is the most relevant Democratic candidate running for president. And we use three different factors: one from YouTube, one from Twitter, one from Instagram. And we stack rank the candidates on each one of those factors to see who is number one. So, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to frickin' see you. You better press that thumbs up button, help the channel out, spread the word. Okay, so let's get into it. We have three factors, right? We have YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. What did we look at? Well, on YouTube, we looked at searching for the candidate's name, and then we come to the filters. We filter for today and view count. And we did this because we wanted to take a look at the top 10 videos that have, in this case, Andrew Yang in the title or some nomenclature that's related to Yang, like Yang Gang or etc., or just Yang, right? The same thing with like Biden versus Joe Biden, or his wife, and it says his wife Biden, whatever her name is, or any of the other characters, right? And if it has them in the title or in the thumbnail, we counted it. We counted the top 10 videos in terms of views that were released within the last 24 hours. And we did this for every single one of the candidates. Yep, this is all I do. Okay, so we did that on YouTube. And then on Twitter, we did something similar. We took, say, here, the hashtag for Andrew Yang, and we searched for it. But if you come over here to the latest, let me zoom in a little bit. We can see you go from, you search for the hashtag, and then you search. This is what normally pops up, which people scroll through. But if you come over to the latest, this shows you when the last tweet came out for hashtag Andrew Yang. And we can see 2 minutes ago that one came out. So we counted, manually counted, all of the tweets that use the hashtag Andrew Yang, Joe Biden, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, etc., for every single one of the candidates' names to see who had the most mentions for a hashtag on Twitter within the last hour. And we did it in a very compressed time frame so that we didn't have, we tried to take that variable out of it. So I went through as quickly as possible to try to get all of them, capture the data all at once. So something wasn't happening with somebody else. Like if I took one at 9 a.m. and then one at 10 a.m. and then one at 11 a.m. and then one at noon and then one at 1, 2, 3. Like I tried to do it all within like a 10-minute period so that I could try to capture and take the time variable out of it. Like how many people are talking about people at this moment in time, right? We want to capture that. And then we moved over to Instagram. And on Instagram, we used the hashtags again. And what we did is we counted the total number of posts that have used the hashtag for each one of the candidates' names. And for all of these factors that we just mentioned, all three of them, we stacked ranked the candidate. Actually, there's four. And let me go back to the first one because I forgot that one. But we stacked ranked the candidates 1 through 10 to see who's number one. So on this first page where we got into Andrew Yang, I apologize, I missed this in the first one. We went through and we counted the total number of views. But the second thing we counted here was, I'm curious, like there's a lot of people that have brought up really valid points in the comments. If you guys want to leave a comment down below, use the hashtag STOLE, and in the Q&A section of the video at the end, we can get into your comments. So just use the hashtag STOLE to get your comment potentially featured at the end. So we looked at who had them in the title, right? And in the thumbnail, one or the other, or both. Within the last 24 hours, the video was published, and on view count, right? And then everything that came up on Google, on the YouTube search volume here, or searches here, I counted every single video that had that person's name in the title. So I'll explain that again, just for clarity's sake. If it basically had any reference to the candidate in question that we're researching, I counted that as a video that was published for that candidate, right? To get an idea of the total number of people that are putting in work for their candidates. And I took all of these factors, all four of them, and I put them into a spreadsheet and came up with this. So the top 5 candidates are Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Andrew Yang, Pete Buttigieg, and Elizabeth Warren. Interesting stuff. I'm also going to get into some very strange stuff with the Instagram algorithm. So stay with us, and stay with us for the Q&A section where we talk about the hashtags. Hashtag stole that as many of your questions or comments. So let's dive into the numbers. And as you can see here pretty quickly that there's actually another factor here that doesn't have a ranking. So we're going to talk about this in a second. And I actually had this in my first iteration of this, which we did on 11/24/2019. You can go back to the channel and check that out. Also, you can check out the national power rankings where we take factors like these, about 8 of them, and we come up with an average of the whole entire country to really get the pulse of America, what they're thinking about, what they're interested in. So what do we have here? We have we're going to start with the views, and we're just going to work across. We see that Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg are the only 2 people who have views that are over 100,000. So if you come to the YouTube rankings video, which I put out a couple days, Andrew Yang ranks #1 for his YouTube channel specifically. But when you look at searching for the name Andrew Yang and you take the views on those videos, it's not that high, relatively speaking. And I mean, that's assuming that everything's in that page, right? We're assuming we're trusting that there, which many people might bring up that like Tulsi's suing Google for search bias and what happened. Could be. I have no idea. I'm just getting the data and letting you guys know. You can decide for yourself. At the end, we can get into conjecture when we get into the Q&A. But right here, this is just the data. You decide. Because I think when people have all the information, right, you can decide what you believe is correct. I'm not going to tell you. We can talk about things, but I want everybody to have the information to understand who the best candidate is, or who the candidate that is doing the best job of articulating their message to get the most people to talk about them, right? According to this, or just the most interest in America when we look at the YouTube search rankings based on the search volume, or the Google rankings based on the number of searches on Google, or their website based on the popularity of the website, or the other social factors that we take a look at in terms of their actual social profiles and how quickly they're growing, and the donations. Like, these are all relevant factors to try to grasp what the actual understanding of American interest is, right? So actually, I apologize, Joe Biden. I completely apologize. Completely missed Joe Biden on that one. Just completely fucking missed him. He is he's actually #2. So I wonder if this changes the rankings, because I completely messed this up. Clearly, I wasn't paying that close attention. So Joe Biden, let's see. He would still be 1. He would still be 2. He would still be 3. 4. So it doesn't change the overall ranking. I do apologize. That is a mistake on my side. I do go through and check this data once, generally speaking, after I put it all in there, but I still miss things like that sometimes. So I do apologize for that. I'm trying to get the most accurate representation of what is happening, and I apologize for not catching that the first time. Should have definitely caught that. Anyways, let's get on. So we have Tulsi and Pete as like the #4 and 5 people who are getting a decent amount of views on the other thing. But what's super interesting to me is, look at this. This is stupid. This is just a retarded number here. Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden all have had their name or some nomenclature associated with their name, or their image or likeness used in a thumbnail in the last 24 hours that many times. So that means that's the people who are talking about these people. And when you know what is needed to win election, right, you have to be good enough. That's the foundational layer. Second is you have to get your message out to more people. So the more people you have that are getting your message out for you, the better it is. And we get to see here that Andrew Yang, and I'm going to harp on this for a second, just because I'm probably biased because I have a YouTube channel, but I think that anybody who else does have a YouTube channel, or potentially you guys who are watching, the amount of effort it takes to put out a video versus consume a video or use a hashtag on Twitter or use a hashtag on Instagram are two completely different things. The amount of effort that goes into these videos versus using a hashtag on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, completely different things. But in the name of trying to understand the truth, I gave them all a weekly, an equal weighting in the numbers. I don't think I might do that next week or next time I do this ranking, but I do believe that that weighting on that factor specifically is probably more than just a quarter of the total, because it takes a lot more work, which means that they're probably talking to more people than if you're just casually using a hashtag. I'd like to know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Use a hashtag Stolt so we can check it out in the Q&A section. But look at this. You have a shitload of candidates who don't have anybody talking about them on YouTube, really. You got a little bit around her, a little bit around her, and a little bit around him. So a little bit around Pete, Elizabeth, and Tulsi. Not much. I mean, like, even the closest person is Elizabeth Warren, and she's got like almost like 28% or something less, or I'm sorry, like 70% something less than the other three candidates on average, kind of ish. That's crazy. You know, almost 70%. But it's those are pretty high numbers, and especially coming from like my point of view, where the amount of effort it takes to do this research and put this together takes a lot more time. So to have this, but the interesting thing is, I wonder why this doesn't correlate, right? Because this correlates. So that got me, and now this is conjecture time. This gets me thinking that there is potentially, I'd like to know your thoughts, the momentum has barely even started to pick up for Andrew Yang. I'm going to continue to track. This is the first time I've had this factor in here, and I'm really thankful that I thought of adding this to here because of your comments and understanding what is going on. So I appreciate them. And if there's more people making content around Andrew Yang, there's a tremendous amount of search volume on the YouTube rankings for Andrew Yang versus the other candidates. I just see this as the potential as a opportunity for this boat to really start taking off. When you look at the discrepancy between the number of views over the last 24 hours, and these could be news events, right? Like it could be other stuff. We don't know. But there's a big difference between these, right? We see that Pete has 122,000. Like if Pete wanted to win, right? There's a bunch of interest, clearly. So over the last 24 hours in his name. So if he was putting out more content, that would probably be helpful. Just like any of the other candidates. The attention and getting your message out to people, that is the thing. So many people think that you need to do it in the real world. This is 2019. You're watching this probably on your phone. That's what my data says when I look at my YouTube analytics. More people watch these videos on their phone than they do on their computer or television. And you guys can know this, right? You pull up to any fucking street light and you look over and the person's not paying attention to the road. They're on their phone. We know what's happening. Anybody can see it happening. And yet the candidates still don't fucking pay attention to the internet. It's like the most retarded thing in the world. Like, why? But this is getting people to talk about them. What I'm ranting about is actually, if you look at some of the other factors, we take a look at the social factors, and look at Amy. I have no idea how Amy's even fucking in this race. Same thing with Julian Castro. I mean, nobody's really talking about them. No offense to them. Like, if you support one of those guys, cool. Like, you got to get more people to talk about them because nobody's fucking paying attention, at least on these platforms that we're talking about. On these factors, at least, right? Let's come over. Let's come over here to the number of tweets over the last hour. So what I did was I started at 4:11, I'm sorry, 401. And you can see I wrote it down here so I'd remember. The number of people who tweeted that used their hashtag over the last hour. And we can see that Bernie Sanders had the most. Andrew Yang had the second most. Joe, and then Pete. Kind of interesting. We see a lot of chatter. There's a lot of support. A lot of people talking about Andrew Yang. I don't know. Is that an indication of like what's going to come? I don't know. I don't know. I think this next debate is going to be super, super interesting. Honestly, I don't know how fucking Joe Biden's doing so well, unless it's all people talking shit, which people like to bring up in the comment section, is that like negative attention versus positive attention. But attention is attention across the board. Negative attention, positive attention. Negative attention is good because then you get more people talking about you and you get an awareness, right? And if you go to the store and you're aware of me, right, and you're not aware of Joe Schmo, and you see like fucking Joe Schmo's product and my product, you're like, huh, that's interesting. I know this guy. I'll just try his shit out. I don't like him. He's fucking weird, right? But let's try his shit out. So that's why negative attention you have to be good enough, right? Remember, that's the foundational layer. You have to be good enough. But if you're good enough, the negative attention is a good thing. As you grow, you're going to get more and more criticism. So let's come over to the total number of posts on Instagram. And I'll show you here. I'll just highlight the top 5 here. Joe Biden, I'm sorry. Bernie Sanders is number 1 at 1.2 million. Now, this goes down to just always building. I don't know, I don't follow like a lot of what these people actually say, but Bernie Sanders has probably been building for a while now. So he's garnered that attention, and now that he's campaigning again, he already had that awareness, right? He went away, he did his shit, and he's like, hey, I'm coming back for the next election. And he started campaigning again, and he's already built up enough of awareness of like what he stands for and what he's interested in changing, that's helping him out tremendously. And that's what happens if you just never stop building, or you can capture that attention. Remember, Bernie was getting a lot of criticism in the mainstream media. That attention's good, clearly, right? He's ranked number 1 out of all of our candidates here. Same thing with Joe Biden, but his is substantially less, almost by a factor of 10, not quite, but almost by a factor of 10. The next 2 closest are Pete and Andrew Yang. Now, this last factor that I'm not counting in our rankings here, let me just show you how I did the scoring here. So scoring is 25% from each one of these factors. But I think, and I'm trying to not weight it in favor of Andrew Yang because I want to take myself out of it. I don't want to have any of my opinion on this. I'm trying to be 100% objective. So that's why I did an equally weighted number for this. But I honestly believe that the number of videos is probably a little bit more important than some of those other ones, potentially, like in the very macro. Because think about if you're putting in more work, right? If there's 60 people putting out content every day for you versus say somebody else who's putting out 15 pieces of content compared to Pete, right? If we were to compare Andrew Yang and Pete, if one person's putting out 60 pieces of content or has people that are putting out 60 pieces of content versus somebody else who has people who are putting out 15 pieces of content, who do you think is going to get their message out to more people? You guys can decide that for yourself. Now, why didn't I factor this one in? Because last ranking we did factor this in. But I found some interesting stuff, and I was like, I don't trust the Instagram algorithm. I am not going to include this as a factor because I don't think it's going to be the most representative of what reality is. I think it's skewed by the data. It's skewed by the algorithm. There's something going on here, and it's not. I have highlighted Joe and Andrew because it's happening with both of them. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my profile. I have no idea why, but I'm going to show you this. And then we're just going to come back real quick. So this is what I do, right? I came over to Instagram, as I told you. I searched for hashtag Andrew Yang, and we see that there's this many posts, right? And then I come through and I count the number of comments on the top 9 oh, what? That's weird. Number 8 and 9 are missing. But there's 31,000 posts for Andrew Yang. How is there not an 8th and 9th post for Andrew Yang? Let's come over here to Joe Biden. There's 170,000 people who have used his hashtag, right? Hashtag Joe Biden. That's weird. Number 9 is fucking missing. I don't think that necessarily it's discrimination. I think that maybe there's a glitch, maybe something else is. I'm trying to be optimistic, guys. I have no idea. I'm not trying to say that there's a conspiracy at fucking all whatsoever. I think honestly it's probably to do with my profile and the things I like, or some glitch in the algorithm, or something with Instagram. Because I didn't get this last time. If you guys check, my link for Twitter is down below. Check your Instagram, search for hashtag Andrew Yang, search for hashtag Joe Biden, take a screenshot, fucking tag me on it. I'm curious to see what yours looks like, because mine looks like this, and that's why I didn't include it in there. I can't trust this to be a factor if the data is skewed. It's just not. I would. It doesn't matter that I'm not favoring any candidate, right? Somebody might think that I'm favoring Andrew Yang here because he got the least number of comments. No, I want this to be the most accurate representation of what America is thinking, to be able to understand where the heartbeat of America is in terms of interest, right? I don't give a fuck who it is. I don't pay attention to any of these candidates. I just pick up marginal little bits here and there from like a little clip on Twitter that I'll be paying attention to, or little, like, you know, I'll see titles here, or I'll see like headlines, but I'm not actually really paying attention to what any of them say. I might try to factor something else in, but I just can't in good conscience use something like this when I know that there's fucking almost 31,000 posts on Andrew Yang, and 2 of them just fucking not in the top 9. What's going on? I can't do, and same thing for Joe. I just can't. I don't like. It doesn't matter if I agree with like how Joe treats people or what he's. I feel like Joe's gonna fucking drop out. That's conjecture, 100%. But I just don't see him winning the nomination at all. I just don't think he has the trust. I don't think he's just good enough at all. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. If you use the hashtag STOLT, just like Music Spinner did here, we can actually get into your comments and go over them in the Q&A section. So, Music Spinner, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. Super interesting watching this next journey develop, especially interested in details of the systems you're building to reach the financial escape velocity that you'll need in the next 1 to 2 years. Best of luck. Hey, awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That is in reference to me buying a Tesla Model 3 for almost $60,000. Yes, I really did that. But why, right? I don't like to buy shit for myself. I don't mind buying shit for my girlfriend at all. I don't mind getting stuff for other people that I care about. I don't want to buy it for me. I would rather take that money and invest that into business. I would rather take that money and invest that somewhere else. I'd rather take that money to make me money. And that is the rationale behind that. Because what is the difference between you and somebody who has the lifestyle or attributes or things in their relationship that you admire? Whether that's a relationship, as I mentioned, right? Maybe they just appear so loving to each other, their partner, right? Maybe they have the economic means to do whatever they want. Maybe it appears that they're doing exactly what they love to do. They think differently than you. That's it. You're capable of it. Think about the way you think about things when you catch yourself. Oh, he just bought a $60,000. That's such a stupid thing to do. Correct. Based upon the way that you think about things, and I'm not calling you as an individual, but a collective of America, the way that, like, if you want to make $250,000 a year, change this. Like, if you don't think it's possible, it's not going to be possible. If you continue to act the same way as everybody else, you're going to get the same fucking results as everybody else. How do people think who have or do the things that you admire? Whether that's the relationship, how do they do that? Well, they bring love into the relationship every single day. They bring in communication into the relationship every single day. They bring kindness into the relationship every single day. They try to bring so much love into that relationship that it's just overwhelming, right? How do they have the economic means, right? Maybe they create a business. I don't know. But I know I need to work on this first and foremost, and what Music Spinner's referencing is that I actually quit my job. Today is day number 3 with not having a job, and I'm doing online stuff. So last month I made $142.95. You can check the video out if you like to. That's from like 6 or 7 different sources. Clearly that's not enough to live off of, or even slightly pay a car payment on a $60,000 vehicle. So what is going on? I know that I need to do it for me, so that shortens that time frame of 20 months, maybe down to, 15 months. And that 15 months, I need to figure it out. And I need to put that pressure on myself so that I'm always leaning forwards. Because how are you going to succeed? How are you going to beat the next person? How are you going to get what you want? By always leaning into those things that make you feel uncomfortable. Having those conversations. Letting your fucking ego go. Just always moving forwards. And if your ego is getting in the way, then look in the fucking mirror and understand what you're doing to yourself, that you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve because your ego's in the way. Anyways, that's a little bit more heady shit. If you want to see more of that, let me know in the comments. Use #soul. The next is from Nivis Kumar. What's good? Nice and interesting data. That is in reference to our Instagram rankings. If you want to check that out, we have some interesting stuff on the growth of people's Instagram following over a 30-day period, and the growth rates associated with that, as well as the number of the amount of work they're actually putting in. Right? We saw the amount of people who are working for these candidates, whether it's casual and they're just using hashtag, or it's all out work and making fucking videos. Right? So the Instagram ranking, go back to the channel, just search for Instagram ranking and it will come up. You can check it out. The next is from Springcraft Gamer. What's good, man? It's nice seeing your comment again. Check out the TYLT online poll. Shows Yang beating Trump 95%. Also showed in the past Trump beating Hillary. Probably correct, but the bias that online voters knew Yang, whereas the public hasn't yet. Ooh, what was that? I'm not sure what happened. I apologize. But I think I let my mouse not move for long enough. Luckily that was at the end of the video, so anybody who's still here, press that thumbs up button. I appreciate you guys so much. The idea that I'm gonna read this last sentence again. Probably correct, but with the bias that online voters knew Yang, whereas the public doesn't. Who uses the internet? Who uses online? The public. So there is a demographic that uses the internet more than people who do not use the internet. I agree 100%. And if you look at the data from Pew Research, if you look at 18 to 53-year-olds, that includes Generation Z, Millennials, and Generation X, right? That group of people, based on the total number of voters expected for 2020, is going to represent somewhere like 63% of the total voting population. Now, let's think about what those demographics do versus the demographics of 54 and older, baby boomers and like 1 or 2 other generations. And I apologize if anybody is in the generations above baby boomer. I think it's like the greatest generation and something like the silent generation or something. I'm not dismissing that. I respect everybody and appreciate everybody's contribution. The just sheer number of voters in each one of those it is estimated to be 63% versus 37% or something like that, according to Pew Research. Now, what are the behaviors of those two demographics, right? Because we really want to understand what's happening. The 53 to 18-year-olds, where do those people spend more of their time, online or offline, relative to the group of 54 plus? They spend more time online. Just give you the answer. Now, the people who are 54 and older, where do they spend more time, online or offline, relative to the other group? It's just this fucking, you can switch it around and it's exact opposite. Both groups spend a tremendous amount online. Both groups have giant segments that don't spend barely any time online. On average, the 18 to 53-year-olds spend more time online. So I think that that last part is the only thing that I could say is, you know what I mean? Like, there's people, the public uses the internet, right? Whether, what doesn't matter the demo, it could be more representative of the 18 to 53-year-olds. I could see that. That would make sense, right? Based on the data. I would agree. But we don't know. And then we could take a look at the TYLT, if we had the analytics on there, to understand the demographics associated with people who visit that site to know if it's representative of the collective. If they had polling that indicated the correct direction for the 2016 election. If you guys want to check that out, I just did the research back testing what we're doing here on the Google and the YouTube search volume, the two biggest sites on the fucking planet, relative to the polling data for the 2016 election. We looked at Trump versus Clinton, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, to see who had more search volume. And on both of those, Trump easily destroyed Clinton on both of those search terms, as well as both on Google and on YouTube. Or just across the board, Trump won. So, given that, I think that as we follow this along, as I understand more of this data, understand what is actually happening more, and build this intuition of what we're doing here, I think I'll get a better understanding of the accuracy of the polls that come out based upon the actual data. And maybe we could do a deep dive in some of these polls to try to understand if there's like ones that seem less biased than other ones. If you want to see that, just use the hashtag Stoll so we can dive into the comment section and talk about it at the end of the next Q&A, at the end of the next video at the Q&A section. So thank you so much, Springcraft, for jumping on the premiere the other day as well. Sometimes I premiere the videos, so don't forget to subscribe and press that bell notification so YouTube can notify you next time I post a video. This is from Joseph Richardson. What's good? That sounds like such a powerful name, brother. Shopping for other people's shit. I guess that was a quote that I said on there. Yes. So why do people go, and this is in reference to our YouTube rankings where there's just a tsunami wave of attention around Andrew Yang. And I think potentially, I don't know, we'll see how this plays out. But when we come back here and we see this discrepancy in views versus content creation, right? It just doesn't line up. Okay, maybe the message isn't good enough that Andrew Yang is putting out. Could be, 100%. I agree. It could be that. If he's good enough and you have that level of production, then it's just a matter of time before that momentum continues, assuming that he's good enough, right? But we'll see. We'll continue to track these. I'm super glad that I fucking thought of adding the production into this because I feel like that's such a valuable factor to have in there. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section, just like Color Prateretti did. I really like to see Stoll get interviewed by Rising. They love this sort of content. By the way, if you appreciate anything that we do here and it provided any value, whether it's just entertainment or insight, or you're like, maybe that's actually onto something. I can't do this myself. I need your help to spread this message of what we're doing. If you think this video can provide value to somebody else, share this video with somebody. If you know somebody who's in the media, whether that's the legacy media, right? Or like radio or television or newspapers and shit, share my shit with them and I'll go do an interview with them. Or if you know somebody on a podcast or YouTube channel or something like that in the new school, I'd love to do an interview with them. I think we need to get the message out that it's 2019 and the way we have been doing things may not be the best way of doing things. I think that there's at least enough data to support that we should have a conversation around the best way of doing things. And just because we've done things for 100 years in one way does not mean that's the correct way of doing things in 2019 and going forward. Maybe that's not my way, but I think we should at least have that conversation to try to understand the data, right? Versus like a poll where you have 1,200 fucking people. That's supposed to represent the collective of America. And that's what's reported on by CNN and MSNBC and CBS and Fox and all these channels, right? Like, it's an important message, in my opinion, that needs to get out there. And I need anybody's help who appreciates this type of content and the truth. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's my beacon, is the truth. To understand what's actually happening. As we touched on at the beginning of the video, the mainstream media, their beacon is not the truth. Their North Star is not the truth. Whatever it is that's clouding it, whether there's an establishment bias, which just is like you're the fucking new guy in the office versus like everybody who's worked together for 10 years and you're not included, right? And that's what's happening with Andrew Yang or Tulsi to a certain extent, because she doesn't like play along, but mainly with Andrew Yang because he's an outsider. That could be happening. There could be direct influence from somebody who was like, no, let's not include him or other things. The amount of criticism that comes with Trump, with anything that he does that's reported by the media, is similar to what I see with happening with Tesla. I invest in Tesla. I just bought a Tesla, as I touched about. I own the stock. I trade the options. I just fucking bought the car. I pre-ordered the truck that I'll get in 2 years. Like, I've been following Tesla since 2008, and they have the attention of the world. They get all these special privileges from China, the second biggest government in the world. If the second biggest government in the world recognizes what's happening with Tesla and Elon Musk, maybe you should fucking pay attention. And the news, same thing with mainstream media, they report that, oh, Elon Musk took his pen and threw it out the window. He doesn't care about the environment. He just has his green cars. But he actually doesn't care about the environment because he threw his pen out the window. The most retarded shit in the fucking world comes out of the mainstream media with anything related to Tesla. And the same exact thing happens with Trump. Whether you agree with him or whether you do not agree with him. The same exact thing happens with mainstream media around Trump that happens with Tesla. Across the board. We need more of the truth out there. Not somebody's biased opinion that's just trying to push their fucking agenda. We need somebody that's actually seeking the truth. Who actually wants that. And I'm not saying that like you need to support Trump by any stretch of the imagination. But anything that's reported around Trump from the mainstream media, remember, just like with Andrew Yang and a lot of what's said in some of these videos and why they're so off on a lot of stuff, happens with Trump as well. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget to jump in the description and say, what's good? In Instagram and on TikTok. TikTok's fucking blowing up. My shit's over on TikTok is absolutely blowing up. I have over 40,000 views over the last 28 days. And on YouTube, I only have like 70,000. So TikTok's really, really popping.